Am I the antagonist for demanding that my partner leave their friends and come home? Background: I am graduating with my Doctor of Philosophy degree in less than a month. My husband has a stable, well-paying job that pays significantly more than jobs in my field. We have a house and a mortgage. I am looking for a job currently since my graduate teaching assistantship and associated funds will be ending soon. I interviewed for my dream job at an organization I have worked with for about 10 years recently. The market in my area is oversaturated and jobs are scarce, so it has made finding a job extremely hard. Today, less than a week before I defend, I learned that I was in the top 2 candidates, but they decided to go with another person. I have been applying to jobs for months, even those an hour-and-a-half one-way drive away, with the only callbacks being this job and a job working at a coffee shop, $8 an hour. I was absolutely distraught as I feel like I put all my eggs in the only basket available and have now screwed the 2 of us. I called him absolutely sobbing because I am just at a loss. We can barely keep up with the cost of living on his salary and my $15 an hour teaching assistant stipend. I have no clue how I am going to make ends meet after graduation, with part-time jobs that barely pay pennies and won't be flexible so you can work a second part-time job. I'm exhausted, stressed, heartbroken, lost, etc., and just wanted my person to be there to comfort me. Nope. Before I could make it home, he had left to the bar with his friends because he had plans. I would have stayed home if he was as upset as I was. I honestly had a little mental breakdown, probably a bit dramatic, but I felt like I just don't have a purpose or any value to this world because I can't find a job, despite daily searches and 40 applications. I just wanted my person to be there to comfort me. Anyways, after 5 hours of him being gone at the bar, I was frustrated with the fact that he knew I was upset, and instead of doing anything to comfort me, he went out with his friends. I pretty much demanded that he come home, to which I was made out to be an awful person. I think I'm just grasping at straws trying to find proof that I matter, and he failed to do that. I know I need therapy, I have an appointment on Thursday, but am I an a-hole? It sounds like you are going through a tough time, and it's understandable to feel hurt and overwhelmed. Your husband's reaction may have been disappointing, but communication is key in situations like this. It's great that you have a therapy appointment scheduled, and seeking support is a positive step towards navigating this challenging moment. Am I the antagonist for telling my parent I judge their actions more harshly now that I'm a widowed parent too? I, 26 male, lost my wife Annie over a year ago when our 2 children were only 18 months and 4 years old. She was only 25. I lost my own mother when I was 5, so I have been where my children are, and my heart aches for them as well as for myself and for Annie, who so desperately wanted to be here for our kids. She lost her own dad when she was 6, so the reality of history repeating hit her incredibly hard before the end. I vowed to her, to myself and to our children that I would not make the same mistakes my dad and her mom made in the aftermath. I'm mostly estranged from my dad, but after Annie died, he reached out to tell me he hoped I understood him better and cut him some slack for everything. I didn't respond to him at the time because I was in the most immediate sense of grief still. Today it's still raw, but I'm in therapy to try and find peace in my life. He reached out to me a few more times and he apologized for his initial message. We met up a few days ago per his request. Once he realized I still wear my wedding ring, and once he realized I was still grieving, he tried telling me I needed to move on and start looking for love again. This led to tension in the meeting, and I told him to drop it or else, which is when he started saying he would hope I would see why he remarried so fast after my mom died, and why he was so happy with his second wife, and why he felt I needed a mother like he was so sure I felt my kids needed. Saying I hated him for being happier and loving his second wife more, but I should understand better now. I should understand that life has to move on, and wanting to embrace a new person fully is not a bad thing. I'm a widowed parent, and that should have opened my eyes and made me regret hating him for so long. I told him it didn't work that way, that it only made me judge his actions more harshly. He was stunned to hear this. He asked me how I was ever going to find someone else to love me and the kids if I'm hung up on Annie, and I told him Annie was the love of my life. I told him my children are the other 2 loves of my life, but in a different way to Annie. It's my job to give them safety, security, love, and the best life I can make happen. I told him I would never look my young children in the eye and tell them their mother is dead and they need to get over it and accept a new mother. I will never yell at my children for crying for their mother because it makes the new spouse unhappy. I told him I'm not looking to give them a new mother. I'm looking to give them the best version of the dad they have and the best out of this shitty life we have been given. I told him I will never rub it in their faces the way he did to me that I love someone else way more than I ever loved their mom. I told him I understand grieving and needing to focus on yourself but not hurting your children by trying to erase the parent they love. He called me an asshole and I left. And I wondered since if I was too harsh. Am I the asshole? You are definitely not the asshole in this situation. It is completely understandable that you are grieving and focusing on providing the best for your children, who are still processing the loss of their mother. Your response to your father was heartfelt and showed your dedication to honoring your late wife's memory and prioritizing your children's well-being above all else. Your father's insensitivity and attempt to pressure you into moving on quickly were misguided, and you were right to set boundaries to protect yourself and your family. Am I the antagonist for refusing to co-parent my nieces on a vacation? So my sister and I, 35 years old female, plan to take my nieces, 9 and 11 years old, to a major theme park and resort out of our country. We are sharing a room and plan to do the same sort of attractions each day. I love my nieces, but they struggle with eating sometimes. Then they get really hungry and have tantrums. My sister was supposed to pack a bunch of snack options for them that they tried at home. Older niece has issues with textures, so it is hard to find safe foods that she will eat consistently. They also struggle to communicate how they are feeling at times. My sister has been less patient lately with them because she is extremely stressed, but not really doing anything to help her mental health. I am child-free by choice, but I love kids, and I am generally really good with them. I tend to pack a lot when I travel, so I have everything I need and then some, including snacks, bandages, and first aid supplies, etc. My sister decided not to pack many snacks or bring them when we went out for the day to the different attractions. First day, the 9-year-old had a tantrum and refused to eat, including lunch at the dine-in restaurant my sister had booked. I stayed with the older niece and we ate while my sister went outside with the younger niece. Things were rough with the younger niece, so they went back to the room. I stayed with the older niece. Eventually they came back for a bit, but by then they were both tired, and I had missed out on the main attraction I wanted to do. Next day, the younger niece struggled again in the morning. I was able to talk to her and figure out she was really tired from all of the walking. I got one of those stroller type things for bigger kids so she could take breaks, and I pushed it around most of the day. Later in the day she got overwhelmed and had to leave, so my sister left, and I stayed with the older niece. The older niece and I went on another ride, then went to a nice dinner together under our meal plan. My younger niece and sister had a nice evening at our resort. When we got back and mentioned a couple things, my sister was upset and jealous that we got a nice meal. Today we had a lower key day, but my sister let the girls stay in the pool for way too long, and they refused to do their sunscreen as often as they should. I went to rest in the room. When they came back, my nieces were extremely hyper and my sister was yelling at them to get going so we could go back to the nice restaurant. They left to step outside and asked me to ask them to get ready. I knew that even if they did, it would be a nightmare at the restaurant and we were all hungry. When she came back and I said we should just get food here, she started yelling at me about how it was so unfair that she kept having to miss things when one of the girls had a tantrum. I ended up leaving and she kept messaging me. She thinks that we should be splitting who leaves when one of them acts out. I said I am not parenting, but she insists that's what an aunt would do. Am I the asshole? You are not the asshole for taking on the responsibility of caring for your nieces during the trip, especially considering their individual needs and behaviors. It's important to communicate openly with your sister about expectations and boundaries to ensure a smoother experience for everyone involved. Am I the antagonist for telling my stepsister that I'll be moving out in a few months and she can't stay with me overnight sometimes? 3 years ago, my dad got married to Erica and Erica moved in with her daughter Liv, 8 years old. Erica has other kids as well. She has 3 with one guy, 2 with another guy, and then Liv with someone else. Liv's dad is apparently someone Erica has a long relationship with, and she cheated on both her ex-partners with Liv's dad. So Erica's other kids hate Erica, Liv's dad, and Liv. I met them a handful of times and it's so clear. Whenever they're around Liv, they tell her she should have never been born. They call her a fair baby to her face, and they mock her and say things to make her cry. Liv doesn't really get why they hate her. She hasn't figured out what they mean by the affair baby comments, and Erica does not want to tell her. Erica's other kids also tell Liv how bad her dad is, how he didn't even want her, and that he's the worst person alive, so she must be really disgusting and unlovable. Erica knows what her other kids say, but they rarely see Erica, so I guess she can't do much. Her 3 older kids are older than me, I think. So yeah, there's a lot of really messy stuff going on there. When my dad and Erica got married, they asked me to please be kind to Liv and to please step up and see her as my sister. I, 17 years old, am kind, but I don't have that sisterly bond with Liv that they want me to have. I told them I didn't feel that way about her when they called me out for not putting more effort into the time we spend together. Sometimes I'll watch a movie with Liv or let her play video games with me. But they want more, and they told me doing more was the only way to make sure we never went back to her being just my stepsister, which is why I explained I didn't have that sibling bond with Liv. They didn't say much else after I told them this. Their only comment was basically, well, you're all she has and she's all you have. My dad has told me a few times not to mention to Liv the fact I'll be going to college in the fall and moving out of the house. Liv has become very attached to me and she has told me how she wishes her other siblings would spend time with her, didn't hate her, and she talks about me being her best friend, and she calls me just her sister, and how she wishes we could spend all our time together. And it kills me because I'm not planning to come back to Dad's regularly. She won't be able to sleep in my dorm for my freshman year, but I won't be living in the dorm my entire time at college, and I don't really want to promise she can visit when I live in an apartment. I brought this all up with Dad and Erica, and they refused to tell Liv I'll be moving out, even though I moved June 19th. So the other day when Liv was trying to ask me to do stuff with her all summer, I told her I wouldn't be here and that I was moving out. She told me we can have sleepovers when I move out, and I told her that wouldn't be possible. She got really upset, and Erica was furious, and she told me I was supposed to be the sibling who doesn't let her down, and Dad said I disobeyed them. Am I the asshole? It sounds like you're in a tough spot, but it's important to remember that you're not responsible for Liv's emotional well-being. While it's kind to be kind to her, setting boundaries for your own future plans is completely reasonable. Just be gentle in your communication with Liv and your family about your decisions. Am I the antagonist for telling my spouse that their friend is too comfortable in our home and that they need to set boundaries? My 24 years old, female husband, 28 years old male, has a friend who comes over frequently and will often spend the night because he can't afford frequent Ubers. And my husband does not feel comfortable driving after drinking. I am currently pregnant and unable to drive due to having short legs, which makes the steering wheel press into my belly uncomfortably. This friend never visited much before, but my husband recently started working a schedule of 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off at a mining camp, so I don't get much time with him. Therefore, he prioritizes spending time with me, his pregnant wife, over nights out with friends. Initially, I didn't mind when his friend would come over, but it quickly became uncomfortable. After his first 3-4 visits, if I didn't have a meal started ready by the time he arrived, he would walk into my kitchen and start preparing a meal with our food. While he would make enough for all of us, I found it strange as I had never experienced that with a friend before, and it made me uncomfortable. My husband didn't have an issue with it, so I didn't say anything about it. This behavior evolved into him bringing ingredients to make us meals, which I appreciated, but I still felt uneasy because if I offered to help or cook, he would tell me to relax as if I were a guest in my own home. What really bothered me was last night when his friend stayed over again. My husband and I had slept in, though I had gotten up a few times due to pregnancy. His friend apparently got bored and walked into our room without knocking, asking if we wanted eggs. When we declined, he went to the kitchen and helped himself to our food. I found it extremely odd and didn't like that he didn't knock. I have never behaved that way in any of my friends' homes and have never been treated like that before. While I wouldn't mind someone helping themselves to drinks or snacks, making a full meal, just for himself since neither my husband nor I were hungry at the time, made me uncomfortable. I talked to my husband about all of this, explaining that I don't appreciate being treated as a guest in my own home, almost like a bad host, and especially not having my privacy invaded. My husband mostly agreed, but he mentioned his friend is just trying to be nice, and he doesn't want to cause conflict. I told him he needs to set some boundaries because I refused to feel uncomfortable in my own home. This upset my husband, and he accused me of not liking his friend, insinuating that his buddy will think I hate him. Am I the asshole for asking for boundaries? It's completely understandable to feel uncomfortable when someone crosses personal boundaries in your own home, especially during a vulnerable time like pregnancy. Setting clear boundaries with your husband's friend is essential to maintaining a harmonious living space, and it's important to prioritize your comfort and well-being during this time. Am I the antagonist for telling my mother-in-law that my dogs are not hers anymore? My 26-year-old female mother-in-law moved in with her boyfriend 2 months ago who doesn't like dogs, and so she decided to give up her 3 dogs for adoption. Instead of putting them in a shelter and risking them being there for a long time and getting separated, my boyfriend, 28-year-old male, and I decided we would adopt them as we have the space, time, and money to accommodate them. All of the identification for the dogs, insurance, microchip, and vets, has been changed into my name. They are very badly behaved dogs, as my mother-in-law never put the effort into training them or walking them. It has taken a lot of effort on our part to begin the journey to improving their behavior. We have noticed a huge change already. We can mostly go whole days without any barking, no accidents in the house, and no destruction. We have so far exclusively taken the dogs to private dog paddocks to work on their recall and lead walking without reactivity issues. We are then planning to progress to public footpaths and walks. Now onto where I might have been the aha. 2 weeks ago, one of the dogs, 9-year-old male, injured his hip during a particularly active walk. We weren't sure what he had done at first, so took a trip to the vets to make sure it wasn't serious. After an examination and x-ray, it was determined to just be a muscle strain which would improve with rest. My mother-in-law dropped in last weekend for a coffee, and I mentioned how the dog had hurt himself but was getting better each day. She then proceeded to say, "I expect he'll be okay now because I think he just needed to see his mummy." This made me incredibly angry, and so I told her that she lost the right to refer to herself as his mummy when she abandoned them and gave up all responsibility. She called me entitled for thinking they were my dogs now and left. I got some angry messages that evening from her and my 2 sisters-in-law, again saying I was entitled and the dogs weren't mine after just 2 months when they were my mother-in-law's for 9 years. My boyfriend is 100% on my side in this, as he knows firsthand how much time and love we have put into the dogs. So am I the antagonist? This was never a temporary arrangement to have the dogs, and my mother-in-law specified this. You are definitely not the asshole in this situation. Taking on the responsibility of caring for the dogs, improving their behavior, and addressing their medical needs shows your commitment to them, regardless of their past ownership. Your mother-in-law's comment was out of line, and it's clear that you are now the primary caregivers for these pups who deserve love and care regardless of their previous circumstances. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.